I love sugar. Candy, yes. Cookies, I'm in. Ice cream, can't get enough. Donuts, oh yeah. Chocolate, Multivitamin gummies, I think you get the point.
But I recently posted a video where I went on a weight loss journey, and a lot of my comments looked like this. Now I usually won't listen to random advice in the comments, but I also ran into this video where an actual doctor broke down what would happen to our body after 14 days of eating no added sugar.
The entire population is going full speed ahead right into diabetes.
So for the next 30 days, I'm not only removing sweets, but 100% of all foods with added sugar, and we'll be testing to see if I can actually see any of these changes. Gotta get the cravings out of the way. You can turn that back off. To start things off, I wanted to get a baseline of where I was at across all the areas mentioned by Dr. Berg. That way, I can measure them after not consuming sugar and see if I actually notice any changes. Since two of the main points mentioned better skin and changes in my face, I took some close-up video, and I noticed that I did have a bit of acne on the left side of my face. Secondly, to measure any improvements in my eyesight and brain function, I went online and found a virtual eye test I could do at home by placing my laptop about 10 feet away. I followed this up with an online memory test in order to baseline brain function.
As for my starting weight, it was around 208 pounds, first thing in the morning, which is within my typical range.
The final point I had to measure was my mood. Is your mommy?
Dios te bendiga, mi hijo querido.
I put my YouTube video and just need to tell me like how my mood's been lately.
Well, lately you have been an
I guess you can't really measure mood, so we'll just skip this one. I quickly noticed during day one that I hadn't really prepared for this challenge as I should have. Since my meals are currently pretty healthy, I assumed I'd have a good amount of options at home, until I tried to make myself breakfast and can barely find anything without adding sugars. This was all I was able to come up with. This honestly made me curious, and I decided to look at the foods I had around the house and figure out what a typical day of sugar intake actually looked like for me. This honestly blew my mind. I mean, I'm eating pretty healthy, and even then my sugar intake is insane. And the craziest thing is that it's not even sweets or desserts. Most of my sugar intake actually comes from foods like bread, sauces, and my morning coffee. So my first task immediately after breakfast was going to the grocery store to pick up some sugarless foods and snacks, which hopefully makes the challenge a lot easier. But in case you didn't know, that was only the start of my problems, because literally everything has sugar in it. Everything. I spent 15 straight minutes in the bread section just looking for some type of bread I could have with no added sugar, and was completely unsuccessful. Given I spent over an hour at the grocery store and looked through hundreds of labels, I left with a pretty weak haul of groceries. Although I now had some extra options, through the day, my meals honestly still felt pretty boring and bland. Mostly due to the fact that I was still kind of limited on the foods I could find with no sugar, and I was also completely avoiding eating out, just because I couldn't really measure whether or not they would add any sugars. The next couple of days were a bit strange. Found myself feeling hungrier than usual. By keeping my meal sizes pretty consistent, I found myself getting hungry pretty much every 2 hours, which I didn't love because despite being hungry, I wasn't really looking forward to eating anything. On top of that, my energy levels were pretty much only existent in the early mornings, and I'd find myself barely being able to function after getting through my workout. But the worst part of all of this was the headaches. All of a sudden around midday, I would get this wave of brain fog and a really bad headache that lasted through the day, no matter how much I ate. I usually never get headaches, so this was super weird to me, and honestly even scared me. So I decided to do some quick research, and apparently I'm addicted to sugar. Alright, so I'm not an expert on any of this, and AI is kind of a thing right now, so I thought, why not just let ChatGPT explain it instead?
Humans eat sugary foods. Your brains release a chemical called dopamine. As you continue to eat sweets, your brains become rewired to seek out that dopamine hit, which causes withdrawal symptoms when cutting it out. These withdrawals will eventually subside, and overall, reducing sugar consumption would help humans live longer. Not that humanity has much time left anyways.
Wait, did she just? After a rough start, I started learning how to solve for some of the struggles I was having. Regarding the blandness of the food, I decided to make another trip to a more organic-friendly supermarket, which ended up having more no-sugar options that I could choose from. Additionally, I started experimenting a bit more with the vegetables and foods I typically prepare. To my surprise, I started enjoying them a lot more. Regarding the hunger, I started incorporating healthier fats like avocado and organic peanut butter, and fattier fishes like salmon. These healthy fats kept me satiated for longer, and also added some much needed flavor and variety. And for the cravings that inevitably hit me, I replaced it mostly with fresh fruit and sugar-free snacks, which helped, but also had its downfalls. I ate sugar, and it was completely accidental. Not even that good. This is the culprit right here.
I was a little bit hungry, needed a snack, something to kind of keep me satiated while I worked through the day. I had looked through the label, I didn't see any sugars, I saw 0 grams of sugars, 0 grams of added sugars. Also, I thought it's popcorn, it seems like the lightest snack out there. But after eventually going back to the label and going through the ingredients, I noticed that it had maltodextrin and sucrose. Now I know there's a whole bunch of artificial sweeteners and whatnot, and I wasn't gonna get too much into that with this challenge, but I thought that if something had artificial sweeteners or fake sugars or some sugar substitutes, that would classify to fall into that added sugar on the label. So couldn't be 0 grams of added sugar if it had sucrose or any type of sugar substitute. But apparently that's not the case. So after doing some research, I actually found out that there is a complete list with over 30 different names of sugar substitutes that companies can use to pretty much fool you into thinking that there's less or no sugar in products than there actually is. As for the challenge, I know I technically botched it, but I'm hoping that it doesn't skew the results too much, and I'm just gonna put my head down and keep going. So I guess there's a little asterisk next to any of the results, I guess, because of this, but just thought I'd be transparent with you guys because it kind of blew my mind. I can't even eat this now. Despite this slight hiccup, I was determined to close out the final week strong. Overall, I felt like I was in a really good place, enjoying some new variety of food, and despite still feeling like something was missing after my main meals, my cravings were definitely more under control. So finally, it was time to give the final test another try and see what measurable differences there were between the start of the challenge and now. All right, so I just finished up the vision test and the memory test. So for this clip, I'm gonna put it next to the baseline clip as well, so you guys could determine if you see any changes in my face shape and also just like skin or acne. I don't really see any changes in my face shape. Acne wise, I don't know, like there's some areas where it definitely improved. I feel like on the left side of my face it got a little bit better, and honestly it was pretty similar when it came to both the vision and memory test. For the vision test, I got down to the same exact line of text that I could read accurately, and for the memory test it actually got a little bit worse. Again, I did have the popcorn incident, and those are just some tests that I found online regarding it, so there might be better, more accurate ways to measure all of this. But anyways, the main thing I want to talk about is, would I recommend going with no added sugars? And honestly, my answer is kinda. Personally, I think this experiment was extremely eye-opening and insightful. And I think a lot of people out there could get some value from at least taking a day to look at some labels and measure how much added sugars and total sugars you're actually getting in day by day. So for me personally, I definitely think there's an opportunity to be more strategic with my sugar consumption. There's so many foods that I'm consuming on a week-to-week basis that have added sugars, and I'm not even really getting the benefit of enjoying them, if that makes any sense. That being said, balance is key. Yes, eliminating added sugars might be optimal for my physical health, but I think it's not always about optimal. Sometimes we need to do the things that we actually enjoy. Sweets and desserts have been at the center of some of my favorite memories and things that have brought me so much joy and added color to my life. So what I'm gonna do moving forward is give myself 1 to 2 cheat days where I just allow myself to enjoy foods without worrying if they have too much added sugars, too much sugars, or what's in them. And then during the week, I could be a little bit more mindful of what's in my meals. If you're thinking of trying this yourself, I've linked as much resources as I could down in the description. All I ask is that if any of it's useful to you, consider dropping a like, commenting, or subscribing. It really helps. Also, let me know if there's any other type of experiment that you'd like to see in a future video. As for me, I'm gonna go enjoy these. Only question is, which one's next?